The massive ship appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning, its dark shape blocking out the sun over major cities as it slowly moved across Earth's orbit. The vessel stretched nearly 20 kilometers in length, its surface gleaming with a purple-silver sheen that reminded observers of polished steel under a sunset. At first, there was panic. Stock markets crashed within hours. Religious leaders called emergency meetings. Military forces worldwide went to their highest alert status. Social media exploded with theories, fears, and the inevitable memes about humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. Then they spoke. The message came simultaneously through every broadcasting channel, every radio frequency, and even appeared on connected devices worldwide. The voice was unmistakably female, deep and commanding, speaking in perfect English with an accent that seemed to combine Russian strength with British precision. People of Earth, we are the Valkyrians. We have watched your world for 3 of your Earth years, studying your capabilities, your wars, your strengths, and your weaknesses. We have deemed you worthy of the challenge. In the United Nations emergency session, representatives from every nation watched the main screen as the alien speaker finally showed herself. She stood over 7 feet tall, her muscular frame covered in what appeared to be living armor that shifted colors like oil on water. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes glowed with an inner golden light. I am High Commander Rena of the Valkyrian Battle Fleet. Our species has existed for 50,000 of your years, and we have brought prosperity and protection to hundreds of worlds through our ancient tradition of ritual combat. The room fell silent as she continued. We challenge your world to present its finest warriors for a series of trials. Should your champions prove victorious, Earth will remain free, and we shall establish a mutual defense pact. Should they fail, she paused, her golden eyes flashing. Your world will become a protectorate of the Valkyrian Empire, subject to our laws and governance. In the Pentagon, General Robert Walker watched the broadcast with his jaw clenched. They're giving us no choice, he muttered to his assembled staff. Either we fight, or we surrender our sovereignty. You have 48 hours to assemble your ruling council and provide your answer, High Commander Rena announced. Choose wisely, Earth. The trials will test not just strength of arm, but strength of mind and spirit. We await your response. The transmission ended, leaving Earth's leaders scrambling to respond. Emergency meetings were called across the globe. Military commanders reviewed their best soldiers' files. Intelligence agencies shared everything they had gathered about the alien vessel since its appearance. In Washington, D.C., President Adams met with his Joint Chiefs in the Situation Room. The air was thick with tension as they discussed their options. We can't just roll over, General Walker argued. But we also can't risk open warfare with a species this advanced. They crossed interstellar space. Their technology must be centuries ahead of ours. Then we accept their challenge, the president decided. But we do it smart. We find our best, our brightest, our strongest. And we show these Valkyrians what humanity is capable of. Around the world, similar conversations took place in Beijing, Moscow, London, and every major capital. For the first time in human history, all nations agreed. This was not a time for individual country glory. This was about Earth's future. The response was broadcast exactly 47 hours after the initial challenge. President Adams, chosen by emergency UN vote to speak for Earth, stood before the cameras. High Commander Rena of the Valkyrian Battle Fleet, on behalf of Earth and all its nations, we accept your challenge. We will select our champions, and they will prove humanity's worth in your trials. We have only one question. When do we begin? The answer came immediately, the alien commander's voice filling the room. Excellent. Prepare your warriors. You have 1 Earth month to select and train your champions. Choose well, humans. The fate of your world now rests in their hands. As the message ended, a small data burst followed, containing the basic rules and requirements for the trials. Those who read it first noticed something interesting. Nowhere did it specify any restrictions on the gender or nature of Earth's champions, a detail that would prove very important in the days to come. The underground military base in Colorado buzzed with activity as hundreds of soldiers lined up for testing. Above them, massive screens displayed the Valkyrian ship, still hovering in Earth's orbit like a dark promise. It had been 2 weeks since Earth accepted the challenge, and time was running out. Colonel James Harris watched from an observation room as candidates went through the trials. His eyes narrowed as he studied the latest test results. "Something's not right," he said, turning to his team of analysts. "Look at these Valkyrian demonstration videos again." On the screen, recordings showed the alien warriors in action. Every single one was female, their movements displaying incredible strength and speed. But it was more than that. Their entire fighting style, their equipment, even their ship's design seemed built around a distinctly feminine perspective. "They expect us to send women," Dr. Emma Thompson said, voicing what everyone was thinking. "Their entire society appears to be female-dominated. They'd probably assume we'll do the same." A smile crossed the colonel's face. "Then let's give them exactly what they expect, and something they don't." The selection process shifted dramatically after that realization. Instead of just looking for the strongest or fastest, they began searching for warriors who could complement each other. The final team would need to represent humanity's greatest strength, adaptability. Captain Jane Miller was the first chosen. She stood in the briefing room, her combat records displayed on the screen behind her. 15 years of special forces experience, expert in 4 martial arts, and a genius for improvised tactics. "You're saying these aliens are all women?" she asked, studying the footage. "And they're from a high-gravity world. That explains their strength." "Exactly," Colonel Harris replied. "Which is why we're not going to try to beat them at their own game. Meet your team." The doors opened, and 4 more warriors walked in. Lieutenant Tom Cooper, whose tactical thinking had revolutionized modern combat training. Major Lisa Reed, whose combat scores were off the charts. Sergeant Mike Peters, who held multiple records in hand-to-hand combat. And Commander Kate Wilson, whose leadership skills had saved her entire unit during 3 impossible situations. 3 women, 2 men, Jane observed. "The aliens won't expect that." They never specified any gender requirements in their rules, Dr. Thompson explained, bringing up the alien documentation. "They just assumed. We're going to use that assumption against them." The team spent the next 2 weeks training together, learning to work as one unit. The men learned to move with the same grace as their female teammates, while the women adapted their fighting styles to take advantage of their male counterparts' different center of gravity. Scientists worked around the clock, developing special suits to help them match the Valkyrians' superior strength. The suits were thin enough to wear under their uniforms, using experimental technology to enhance their natural abilities. "Remember," Commander Wilson told her team during their final practice session, "they're expecting us to fight like them, to think like them. That's their weakness." The day before the team was to be presented to the Valkyrians, Colonel Harris called them together one last time. "You've seen the footage. These aliens are incredibly strong, fast, and skilled. But they're also proud. They believe their way is the only way. Show them how wrong they are." The team stood in their new combat suits, watching as technicians made final adjustments. The suits hummed softly, barely visible under their regular uniforms. Tom and Mike wore additional stealth technology that would help mask their masculine features at first glance. Another surprise for later. "Humanity has always survived by adapting," Jane said, looking at her teammates. "By working together, by using our differences as strengths. That's what they don't understand yet." Commander Wilson nodded. "Tomorrow, we show the Valkyrians that Earth doesn't just have female warriors. We have human warriors. And that makes all the difference." As they left the briefing room, the team felt the weight of Earth's future on their shoulders. But they also felt something else, confidence, because they knew something the Valkyrians didn't. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its strength, its speed, or even its technology. It was its ability to surprise. The transport ship rose through Earth's atmosphere, carrying Earth's chosen team toward the massive Valkyrian vessel. Through the viewscreen, the alien ship grew larger, its purple-silver surface reflecting sunlight in waves that made it look almost alive. Commander Wilson studied her team. Jane and Lisa sat perfectly still, their enhanced suits hidden under their formal uniforms. Tom and Mike wore their stealth technology, which subtly altered how others perceived them. At a glance, they appeared as athletic women, their features softened by the advanced camouflage. "Remember," Wilson whispered, "let me do the talking. The longer we can maintain this advantage, the better." The human ship docked with a soft thud. As the airlock cycled, they felt the artificial gravity shift. Dr. Thompson's voice came through their earpieces. "You're now experiencing roughly twice Earth's gravity. Your suits should compensate, but be careful." The airlock door opened, revealing 3 Valkyrian warriors. They towered over the human team, each standing over 7 feet tall. Their living armor rippled with colors, and their golden eyes studied the Earth team with obvious curiosity. High Commander Rena stepped forward, her pale blue skin almost glowing under the ship's lights. "Welcome, warriors of Earth. I must admit, we are impressed by your calm demeanor and our gravity." Commander Wilson smiled, stepping forward with practiced ease thanks to her suit's support. "We adapt quickly, High Commander. It's what humans do best." The Valkyrians led them through corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly. The human team kept their movements careful and measured, hiding how much they relied on their enhancement suits. Other Valkyrian warriors they passed stared at them with a mixture of interest and amusement. "Your training facility," Rena announced, leading them into a vast chamber. The room was filled with equipment that looked like a cross between a gym and a battlefield. "You have 1 Earth day to acclimate before the trials begin." As the Valkyrians left them to settle in, Jane tested the gravity by doing a simple jump. Her suit compensated perfectly, making it look effortless. "They're so sure of themselves," she whispered. "Did you see how they barely bothered to size us up?" Tom moved to examine some of the alien exercise equipment, his stealth field maintaining his feminine appearance. "Their arrogance is our advantage. They think they know exactly what they're dealing with." The team spent hours exploring the training facility, learning how the Valkyrian equipment worked. The gravity was a constant pressure, but their suits handled it well. They discovered that the Valkyrians' living armor responded to touch, changing color and texture as they examined it. Later that evening, a young Valkyrian brought them their meals. She was smaller than the others, probably a junior warrior. As she set down the food, she paused, staring at Mike with a confused expression. For a heart-stopping moment, the team thought she had seen through the stealth technology. But she just shook her head and left quickly. "That was close," Mike said, checking his stealth field. "These disguises won't fool them forever." "They don't need to," Commander Wilson replied. "Just long enough to get through the first trials. By then, it won't matter anymore." As they ate their meal, specially prepared to match Earth nutrition needs, they discussed what they'd learned. The Valkyrians were physically impressive, yes, but they'd spotted weaknesses. Their movements were powerful but predictable. Their confidence bordered on overconfidence. "Look at how they build everything," Lisa pointed out. "It's all about raw strength. No subtlety, no finesse. They don't think they need it." Jane nodded. "And that's where we'll beat them. Not with strength, but with—" A loud announcement interrupted her. High Commander Rena's voice echoed through the chamber. "Earth warriors, prepare yourselves. The first trial begins at dawn. Rest well, for tomorrow, you face the might of the Valkyrian elite." The team exchanged glances. This was it. Everything they trained for, every deception and preparation, would be tested tomorrow. "Get some sleep," Commander Wilson ordered. "Tomorrow, we show them that humanity has more than one way to fight." As the lights dimmed in their quarters, Each team member thought about what was at stake. Earth's future, yes, but something else too. The chance to prove that true strength comes in many forms, and that assumptions can be the greatest weakness of all. Dawn in space was meaningless, but the Valkyrians kept to a strict schedule. The arena lights blazed to life, illuminating a massive circular chamber filled with various obstacles and challenges. Hundreds of Valkyrian warriors watched from elevated platforms, their golden eyes fixed on the 5 humans who entered the arena. High Commander Rena's voice boomed across the chamber. The first trial tests raw strength. Each team member must lift and hold a weight bar. The bar will continuously get heavier until you can no longer hold it. Jane stepped forward first, her enhancement suit humming softly beneath her uniform. The Valkyrian champion she faced was nearly 8 feet tall, muscles rippling under her living armor. "Begin," Rena commanded. The weight bars started at what felt like 500 pounds. Jane held it steadily, making it look effortless thanks to her suit. The Valkyrian warrior smiled, clearly expecting an easy victory. As the weights increased, Jane remembered her training. "Don't show everything at once," she whispered to herself. At 1,000 pounds, she let her arms shake slightly. At 1,500, she grunted with apparent effort. The Valkyrian champion held her bar easily, looking almost bored. But then something unexpected happened. As the weight passed 2,000 pounds, Jane stopped pretending. Her suit's full power activated, and she stood straighter. Murmurs rippled through the watching crowd. The Valkyrian champion's confident smile faded as Jane continued holding the weight that should have crushed her. Finally, at 2,500 pounds, Jane carefully set her bar down, exactly 1 second after the Valkyrian did. Close enough to impress, but not to arouse too much suspicion. The next test was strategic thinking. Tom stepped forward, his stealth field still perfectly maintaining his feminine appearance. The challenge was to navigate a 3-dimensional holographic maze while solving complex mathematical equations. Tom's natural talent shone here. Where the Valkyrian warrior tried to power through the puzzle, Tom saw patterns and connections. He finished the maze 3 minutes before his opponent, causing more murmurs among the spectators. "Impossible," one Valkyrian warrior muttered. "Their gravity is half of ours. Their minds should be slower, less developed." The third test was endurance. Lisa and Mike ran an obstacle course that wound through the entire arena. The Valkyrian course was designed for their higher gravity and superior strength, but the humans had trained differently. Instead of matching the Valkyrians' powerful jumps and direct approaches, Lisa and Mike found alternative routes. Where a Valkyrian would leap over a wall, they would find a quick way around. When faced with a heavy obstacle, they would use momentum and leverage instead of raw power. "Their technique is unusual," High Commander Rena observed, watching closely. "They move differently than any warriors we've encountered." The final test of the day was hand-to-hand combat. Commander Wilson stepped into the ring, facing a Valkyrian combat instructor. The alien warrior moved with incredible speed, her living armor enhancing her already formidable strength. But Wilson had studied their footage extensively. She knew their patterns, their preferences. Where the Valkyrian expected power against power, Wilson used redirection. When the alien warrior launched a crushing blow, Wilson wasn't there to receive it. The match ended in a draw, something that hadn't happened in any of the Valkyrians' previous challenges. The watching crowd had fallen completely silent. As the team regrouped, they could feel the change in atmosphere. The Valkyrians were no longer smiling. Their golden eyes studied the humans with new intensity, new suspicion. "They're starting to realize something's different about us," Jane whispered. "Good," Commander Wilson replied. "Let them wonder. Tomorrow's trials will be even harder." Back in their quarters, the team checked their equipment. The suits had performed perfectly, and the stealth technology maintaining Tom and Mike's disguises was still stable. But they knew the Valkyrians would be watching more closely now. "We've shown them we're strong," Wilson told her team. "Tomorrow, we show them we're clever." Day after that, We show them why assuming anything about humans is a mistake. As they rested, preparing for the next day's challenges, alerts flashed through the Valkyrian ship. High Commander Reyna had ordered detailed scans of the human team. The deception was about to face its greatest test. The real trial was just beginning. The alarms blared through the Valkyrian ship, their piercing sound reaching every corner of the massive vessel. High Commander Reyna stood in the control room, her golden eyes blazing as she studied the scan results on the massive screen before her. Deception. Her voice thundered through the chamber. The humans have dared to deceive us. In their quarters, Earth's team heard the alarms and knew their time had come. Tom and Mike's stealth fields flickered and died. The Valkyrians' scans had disrupted the technology. Commander Wilson straightened her uniform and nodded to her team. "Remember," she said calmly, "this was always part of the plan." The door burst open. 6 Valkyrian warriors stormed in, their living armor pulsing with angry red patterns. Behind them walked High Commander Reyna, her face a mask of controlled fury. "Males." She spat the word. "You brought males to our sacred trials." Commander Wilson stepped forward, standing tall despite the Valkyrians towering over her. "Your challenge asked for Earth's best warriors. These are among our best. It is an insult." A younger Valkyrian warrior shouted, "Males are not worthy of the combat trials." Tom stepped forward, his military medals clearly visible on his now unchanged uniform. "I've served in 3 combat zones and saved 32 lives under enemy fire. My worth isn't determined by my gender." The room crackled with tension. The Valkyrian warriors had their hands on their weapons, but the human team remained calm. This was the moment they had prepared for. "You use technology to hide their true nature," Reyna said, holding up a device showing their scan results. "Your enhancement suits, your disguise fields, all deception." "No," Jane countered. "Adaptation. You never specified any gender requirements in your challenge. You assumed we would follow your cultural norms without question. That was your mistake." Mike stepped forward. "You call this deception, but isn't assuming all warriors must be female also a form of deception? A lie you tell yourselves." The words hit home. Several Valkyrian warriors shifted uncomfortably, their living armor swirling with confused patterns of blue and purple. "Our society has thrived for 50,000 years with female warriors," Reyna declared, but there was a note of uncertainty in her voice. "And Earth has thrived by embracing diversity," Commander Wilson replied. "Our strength comes from our differences, not our similarities. Male, female. These are just different aspects of the same human spirit." A older Valkyrian warrior, her armor bearing marks of countless battles, spoke up. "High Commander, they have not broken any written rules." And, she hesitated, their performance in the trials was impressive. Performance achieved through technological enhancement. Another warrior protested. "Technology we developed ourselves," Lisa pointed out, "just as you developed your living armor. Is using tools to overcome our natural limitations not also a form of strength?" The argument spread through the gathered warriors. Some demanded immediate disqualification, while others argued for continuing the trials. The humans' performance had earned respect, even if their methods caused controversy. High Commander Reyna raised her hand for silence. Her golden eyes studied each member of the human team carefully. "In 50,000 years," she said slowly, "no species has ever challenged our assumptions this way." "Then perhaps," Commander Wilson suggested, "this is about more than just combat trials. Perhaps this is a chance for both our species to learn from each other." The room fell silent. The Valkyrian warriors looked to their High Commander, waiting for her decision. The human team stood their ground, united regardless of gender. Finally, Reyna spoke. "The trials will continue," she announced. "But first, we must revise our understanding of strength." As the Valkyrians left, Commander Wilson gathered her team. They had survived the revelation, but the real challenge was just beginning. They had shaken the foundations of a 50,000-year-old culture, Now they had to prove that their way, humanity's way, was worth considering. "They're watching us more closely than ever now," Jane said. "Good," Tom replied. "Let them watch. Let them learn." Outside their quarters, the Valkyrian ship hummed with activity. Discussions and debates erupted everywhere. For the first time in millennia, the warrior women of the stars had to confront their own prejudices. Change was coming, whether they were ready or not. The final arena was unlike anything the human team had seen before. The massive chamber had been transformed into a multi-level battlefield, with platforms floating at different heights in the double-gravity environment. Holographic obstacles appeared and disappeared randomly, while sections of the floor would shift and change without warning. The ultimate challenge, High Commander Reyna announced to the thousands of Valkyrian spectators, will test every aspect of warrior capability. Strength, speed, intelligence, and, she paused, looking directly at the human team, adaptability. Commander Wilson studied the arena. After yesterday's revelation about Tom and Mike, the Valkyrians had modified the challenge. Now, instead of one-on-one combat, it would be team against team. 5 humans against 5 Valkyrians. They've chosen their best, Jane whispered, watching their opponents warm up. The Valkyrian team was led by War Master Lita, a legendary fighter who had never lost a challenge in 300 years. "Good," Tom replied, checking his combat suit. Without the stealth field, he could now use its full power. "Let them bring their best. We'll show them ours." The signal to begin echoed through the arena. Both teams moved into position, the Valkyrians taking high ground with powerful leaps, while the humans split into their practiced formation. War Master Lita's voice boomed across the arena. "Let's see how your male warriors fare without their disguises." Mike answered by running straight up a vertical wall, his suit's enhanced capabilities on full display. The Valkyrian crowd gasped. Even without disguises, the humans were full of surprises. The battle erupted across multiple levels. Jane and Lisa engaged 2 Valkyrian warriors in close combat, using their smaller size and enhanced speed to avoid crushing blows while landing precise strikes of their own. Tom coordinated from the middle level, using his tactical genius to predict where the holographic obstacles would appear. "Commander, platform shift coming to your left," he called out, allowing Wilson to leap clear just as the floor disappeared beneath her. The Valkyrians fought with incredible power, their living armor adapting to each situation. But they fought as individuals, each trying to prove their personal strength. The humans fought as one unit. When a Valkyrian warrior cornered Mike, Jane was there to provide cover. When Lisa needed extra height for a jump, Tom created a boost point with his linked hands. Every human movement supported another, like a complex dance they'd practiced their entire lives. Their coordination, War Master Lita muttered, blocking Commander Wilson's strike. "How do they move so perfectly together?" "Because we trust each other," Wilson replied, using Lita's own strength to flip backward. Regardless of gender, rank, or role. The battle raged for an hour. The Valkyrian team's superior strength began to show as the humans' suit power started to drain. But this, too, was part of their plan. "Now," Commander Wilson shouted. The human team instantly regrouped at the arena center. As 3 Valkyrian warriors charged them from different directions, the humans executed their final strategy. Mike and Tom dropped to one knee, forming a platform. Jane and Lisa used their backs as springboards, launching high into the air. Commander Wilson ran up their shoulders, leaping even higher. The Valkyrians, committed to their charge, couldn't stop in time. Jane and Lisa caught 2 of them in mid-air throws, using their own momentum against them. Wilson descended onto War Master Lita with a perfectly timed strike that used the double gravity to multiply its force. In 10 seconds, it was over. 3 Valkyrian warriors lay stunned on the arena floor. The other 2, trying to counterattack, found themselves trapped in a perfect human defensive formation. The arena fell silent. War Master Lita rose slowly, her living armor shifting from battle red to a calm blue. She looked at the human team, men and women standing together, protecting each other. In 300 years, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the arena, I have never seen warriors fight like this. Not with just strength or speed or skill, but with, she searched for the word, unity. High Commander Reyna stood from her observation post. The human team had not just survived the ultimate challenge, they had transformed it into something entirely new. The trial is complete, she declared. But everyone present knew this was more than just a trial now. It was the beginning of a revolution. The great hull of the Valkyrian ship glowed with soft purple light as both humans and Valkyrians gathered for the formal conclusion of the trials. The ceiling stretched hundreds of feet high, decorated with holographic displays showing great battles from Valkyrian history. Now, a new scene played among them, the human team's victory in the ultimate challenge. High Commander Reyna stood on the central platform, her living armor now shimmering with patterns of gold and white, colors of peace and respect in Valkyrian culture. Before her stood Earth's team, Commander Wilson, Jane, Lisa, Tom, and Mike, their enhancement suits cleaned and repaired after the final battle. In 50,000 years of challenging other species, Reyna began, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. We have never encountered warriors like you. We came expecting to find strength. Instead, we found wisdom. War Master Lita stepped forward, her legendary status making her words carry special weight. Our society believed that only females could possess true warrior spirit. We let this belief limit us, blind us. Today, that limitation ends. From the gathered crowd came a young Valkyrian male, his head held high despite his nervousness. He wore a training version of the living armor, something never before allowed for males. He approached War Master Lita and knelt. Rise, Lita commanded. From this day forward, all who wish to become warriors may try, regardless of gender. What matters is not what you are, but what you can become. Commander Wilson watched this historic moment with satisfaction. Their victory had sparked exactly the kind of change Earth had hoped for, not just avoiding becoming a protectorate, but helping an advanced civilization grow beyond its own prejudices. High Commander Reyna raised her hands for silence. The formal declaration must be made. Earth has proven itself not just worthy of independence, but worthy of alliance. We offer not subjugation, but partnership. She pressed a crystal on her armor, and a holographic document appeared in the air. The Treaty of Warriors, she explained. No longer will we seek to make worlds our protectorates. Instead, we will offer friendship and exchange of knowledge. As Wilson stepped forward to accept, a small smile crossed her face. We have much to learn from each other, she said. Your strength, your technology, your dedication, and perhaps, Reyna finished, we have much to learn from you about the true meaning of unity and adaptation. The treaty was signed first in the Valkyrian tradition, both leaders pressing their hands into scanning crystals, and then in the human way with actual signatures on physical paper. As the documents were finalized, cheers erupted from both humans and Valkyrians. Later, in a smaller chamber, the human team prepared for their return to Earth. They were surprised when War Master Lita entered, accompanied by several young Valkyrian warriors, both female and male. Before you leave, Lita said, these young ones wish to learn your combat techniques, the way you work together, support each other. It is revolutionary to us. Tom stepped forward first. The secret isn't in the technique, he explained. It's in trusting each other. Gender, size, strength. These are just tools. The real power comes from unity. The next few hours were spent in informal training, humans and Valkyrians learning from each other. The enhancement suits were examined with respect rather than suspicion. The living armor's secrets were shared openly. As the human team finally boarded their transport ship, High Commander Reyna offered one last salute. You came as challengers, she said. You leave as teachers and friends. Commander Wilson returned the salute, Sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating an enemy, but from turning them into allies. The transport ship detached from the Valkyrian vessel, beginning its journey home. Through the view screen, the team watched the massive alien ship begin to glow with new colors, a rainbow display representing the biggest change in Valkyrian history. "Do you think they'll really change?" Jane asked, watching the display. "They already have," Wilson replied. "Just like humans did, long ago. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to challenge the old ways." As Earth came into view, the team felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had come to fight for Earth's freedom. Instead, they had freed an entire civilization from its own limitations. And somewhere on the Valkyrian ship, a young male warrior began his first official training session, proving that the universe's greatest strength lies not in tradition, but in the courage to change.